It's time for another thrilling edition of the UK's premier news and current affairs programme, the Shite You See, on the BBC. Mercifully light on communism this week. I assume that's because of the endless coronavirus panic. I did listen to an interesting podcast, James Dellingpau's podcast the other day, with Peter Hitchens, and I'll put a link to that in the description to anyone who wants to listen to it, because I'm a big fan of James Dellingpau. Peter Hitchens had a lot of interesting things to say about it, postulating that perhaps we're all being completely needlessly shrill about the whole thing and we should just keep calm and carry on. Where have you heard that advice before? Probably quite wise, isn't it? But we'll see what happens. There is a theory that it was active in about November, December, and everyone's had the fucking thing anyway, so we'll see what happens with that. On with the show though. This one made me piss myself because lefty news outlets seem to think that we want to take political or societal advice from random famous people with zero training or education in any of the things you would assume are important to civics or running a society in general. It reminds me of when Anne Hathaway, remember when Anne Hathaway was telling everyone that, you know, this is how we need to do things, and everybody needs to feel guilty about the past, and we have to give people reparations and all this complete nonsense. And I'm thinking, why should anyone be taking advice on how to run a legal and political system off fucking Catwoman? Maybe I'm the weird one, but this is good. It's Conor McGregor pleads for full lockdown amid global coronavirus crisis. It says Conor McGregor's made a passionate call to the Irish government and the world to introduce a full lockdown amid the coronavirus crisis. I'm sure the world are taking that seriously from a bloke that punches people in the face and drinks heavily for a living. It said the MMA star's Facebook video came before Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar announced new measures. So it's like they're trying to frame that as in he said all this shit, and then Leo Varadkar went, "Fuck, this is what we need to do, man." That drunk fist fighter, there's a man who we need to be taking political advice from. He said, true lockdown must begin, and it must begin now. Well, I'm fucking convinced. He's talking me into it. The smooth-talking bastard. Says, any time that we spend debating is needless. Where has debating ever got anyone, eh? I know a good fight when I see one. And we've got one on our hands now. We must close all the airports, close all the businesses, end all non-essential travel. Well, he looks like a fella who's done well in medical school. I think we should defer to his knowledge. The thing with McGregor is as well, he's a fucking lunatic. Like, I quite like the bloke. He's got charisma and he's funny. He's a good crack. But not the type of fella I want to be taking complex advice from. You can see by when he's talking he's not particularly... I suppose what I'm trying to say is if he hadn't become a fucking cage fighter, he'd be a fucking proper jippo. You know, I don't presume that I should have the ear of the Prime Minister, is all I'm saying. And I don't think Conor McGregor is any more fucking qualified than I am. He's fucking fantastic at punching people in the face, but probably not. That's going to cause more problems than it solves. If people are pissing blood everywhere, I'm sure that'll spread the virus. Speaking of fist fighters talking shite, Billy Joe Saunders has put his foot in his mouth as well. His gloved fist straight down his fucking throat. It says, world champion Billy Joe Saunders has apologised after posting a video on social media in which he advised men how to hit their female partners. He was shown demonstrating techniques on a punch bag. Yeah, I can't imagine he'd have thought that wasn't a fantastic fucking idea when people are trapped in their house together for months and stressed and probably drinking a lot. Yeah, fucking great idea. He added, I would never condone domestic violence, and if I saw a man touch a woman, I'd smash him to pieces myself. So even in his apology, he's sort of being a bit heavy-handed. Excuse the pun. Because it's a bit of a broad brush statement, that, isn't it? Touch a woman? Like what? Brush past her in a department store? Boomf. Seems a bit harsh. Also, you never know what happens. What if a woman throws 10 punches at a man and he slaps her in self-defence? Think a professional boxer who'd fucking give him 6 combinations and drop him like a bad habit? I don't. So yeah, he's a fucking idiot as well. Weird how pugilists appear to be our number one source of information on the BBC during this crisis. Alex Salmond finally got his day in court and he was cleared of sexual assault. BBC's top headline, of course, is Alex Salmond's accusers devastated by the court verdict. It says the women who made allegations against him say they've left devastated after he was cleared in court. The thing with this is, right, no part of me likes that fat, oily Marxist at all. But the man was cleared in court. Let that be the end of it. And certainly if you're not going to let it be the end of it and you're going to cover the story, don't frame it when a man's just been cleared by a court. Don't frame it as Alex Salmond's accusers are devastated by the court verdict. Frame it as man went to court, went through the legal process and then was cleared. Don't just instantly frame it as, oh, it's a fucking terrible miscarriage of justice because he didn't get found guilty. This is where we've been going wrong. You need to have due process and follow the rule of law. And the fucking idea that these batty, militant feminists are making, like as if as soon as a woman utters anything like an accusation, you just have to instantly stick the cunt in the stocks and fling cabbages at him, is absurd. It pisses all over the idea of equality under the law. So that's what they've got to say. Nothing about the fact that all 13 charges were dropped. Just, oh, well, the women who accused him are fucking devastated. Well, I'm sure they are. That doesn't mean we throw the fucking legal system out the way and just, put him in jail anyway. Fuck it. He looks a bit mean. That's enough, isn't it? This story made me think of a lot of the criticism I talked about in the last video I made regarding all of the gloating about Boris Johnson getting ill. It says India's PM seeks forgiveness over virus lockdown. He said he's asked for his country's forgiveness after imposing a sweeping lockdown that set to hurt millions of poor people. Of course, it's now twatting India and he's having to apologise for this. But the point I want to make regarding this story is simply this. Every country on earth is getting twatted by the coronavirus. USA's past 133,000 cases, the Italians nearly 100k. China, they're blatantly bullshitting about the figures. I wouldn't believe the fucking Chinese Premier's radio, let alone the fucking state statistics from an authoritarian communist regime. But yeah, everyone's getting twatted by it. France are up to 40,000, UK's at 19,000. And yet, the ragtag bunch of hardcore far-left activists over at Another Angry Voice are just talking total fucking nonsense. And I'm trying not to talk about coronavirus too much, but let's just quickly cover this and I'll get back to amusing, not virus-related shit. They're playing politics in the most cynical way and trying to make it look like Boris Johnson's made some calamitous error when it's categorically not the case by simply looking at the numbers. The absolute wankers in government made this crisis vastly more difficult than it ever needed to be with their unpreparedness, their pseudo-scientific herd immunity bollocks, and their weeks of foot-dragging delay tactics. It's not pseudoscience. He was a newspaper editor and a mayor and a fucking journalist. When he's giving people medical advice, he's getting it from the Surgeon General, doctors, surgeons and healthcare professionals. He doesn't go, fuck off losers, I've got this. Doesn't happen. So that's not bollocks. That's medical advice. They've changed the strategy. So the people who deserve the credit are the medics and essential workers. Obviously, nobody's saying that. In fact, Boris Johnson says that constantly. He says that despite the Tory government's hard-baking, disastrous consequences. So if it's their fault, why does every other country look exactly the same? Why? Why is UK not at the very top of that list? And Germany and France and Spain and Iran and Switzerland and the Netherlands are all fucking right down the bottom going, oh, that was easy. It doesn't stand up to even basic scrutiny. And then look at this bullshit. Look at the Tory bootlickers shitting themselves with rage. Johnson wanted to sacrifice literally hundreds of thousands of lives. Did he? Wanted to kill hundreds of thousands of people? Then he changed course under massive pressure from the scientifically literate. He said these people love being shat on by their beloved Tory lords. They adore it. The more callous and murderous the Tories are, the more they lick it up. This is a level of hyperbole, and I'm prone to hyperbole, but this is a level that almost beggars belief. Like, he wants to kill millions of people, and the people that vote Conservative also want to kill, themselves? Look, even if it's their own grandparents in the firing line, really? Just want to kill? Fuck it. I slightly prefer the Conservatives to the Labour Party, even though they killed my parents on purpose. Yeah, fuck it. It says absolutely ludicrous people they are. Well, again, just check their page out, and I invite you to decide which group of people is the most absolutely ludicrous. But this drivel reads like it was written by like a 14-year-old who's just discovered politics for the first time and he's being all like trendy. And it's just full of that shit. Like, yeah, they want to kill everyone. They love killing their own grandparents. It's fucking mental. And the best thing is everyone in the comments is like, yeah, how stupid are people? Again, like young kids who think, oh, no, the whole world's wrong. I'm right. And then someone points out in the comments, look, I have no words because most people think they're doing all right. 50% say fairly well handling the coronavirus crisis. 22% say very well. So 72% of the country's going, yeah, it's all right. And these fucking lunatics see that and go, oh man, we're cleverer than everybody else. Yeah, fucking maniacs. So there we go. There's the figures. India's in the shit as well. Every country on earth's in the shit. And you've got a bunch of hardcore communists who seem to think that, no, the whole world's wrong. We're right, we'll tell you. And the general British voter wants to kill their own grandparents. Yeah, totally reasonable. Moving on, what else is there? 1968, the year that haunts hundreds of women. What's this? When Tran Yi Nai was raped, she did not get justice or even sympathy. She ended up in prison. Well then, probably the least of her worries, isn't it? She went to buy soy sauce. Vietnam. So summer of 67. It's the height of the Vietnam War. A war that killed 2 million Vietnamese and 66,000 Americans. And apparently the biggest thing about 1968 is a few hundred women got raped. I'm not trying to minimise a horrific crime like rape, but when you've got the raging, probably the most... 68 was probably one of the most aggressive years in the war, in the conflict. Seems a bit weird to make it all about a few hundred women, doesn't it? Of the 2 million Vietnamese and 66,000 Americans that died, I reckon 95% of them are going to be men. But apparently, the big deal is that it haunts hundreds of women. Fucking at least they got to live through it. If I had to choose between a Vietnamese bloke bouncing on my shit locker for 10 minutes or stabbing me in the eye with a fucking rusty bayonet, I'd pick the former stabbing over the last one. So yeah, bollocks. More fucking gender warfare from the BBC. Untold numbers of misery and death and carnage and suffering and torture and murder. And I'm supposed to be worrying about a woman that got raped and lived to tell the fucking tale. Do me a fucking favour. Obviously I feel bad for the woman, but at least she never got napalmed to a crisp. Christ. Raving to the BB News theme tune goes viral. Which only goes to show how much of a bunch of boring cunts this generation is. Fucking hell. I am massively fangirling. No, I'm not watching you. What's this? Hiking and beach cleaning in heels and drag. This'll be good.
Hello everyone, my name is Patty Gonia and I am a backpacking drag queen and environmental advocate. But Patty was born actually on the trails in the backcountry. I packed these 6-inch heels up with me on a backpacking trip with friends, put them on, made a little video, edited it on the couch with my mom the next day, and woke up to like 12 million views on the video. And Patty was born. We do group hikes, we do trash pickups, we do trail pickups. Recently we went to a beach in Hawaii and picked up tons of microplastics, which are like the size of a grain of sand. And to figure out that we all need to love on Mother Nature a little bit more.
I think we can leave that there. I'm all down for some activism. Definitely for picking up litter. I just think you might be quicker if you wore like a t-shirt, a pair of running shorts and some trainers, rather than 6-inch heels and knee-high leather boots. It's almost like you're more concerned about people fawning all over you on social media than you are about picking shit up. Just a thought. It says, Patty says, the outdoors just is and accepts us for who we are. It's a fucking cactus. How's it supposed to voice its displeasure if it doesn't accept you for who you are? Christ almighty. Inanimate objects. What's this one? Days away from dying after gay body shaming. Even the gays are at it, see? Once you've dealt with all those intolerant straight white men, you've got to start dealing with those intolerant gay white men. The bastards.
I haven't heard of anything.
Do lesbians need more safe spaces? No. Plenty of them to be found. I'm sick of fucking reading about them. It's so obvious, this type of thing. Listen, if you want to enjoy your life, you've got to accept risk. Risk is inherent in anything enjoyable. That's why people enjoy base jumping or bungee jumping or skydiving. A little bit of risk makes things fun. Nightclubs are inherently risky. Lots of people crowded together, lots of drink and drugs. By definition, a nightclub cannot be a safe space. Teddy, if you want to be safe, lock yourself in a cupboard in your cellar and revel in your newfound safety. Otherwise, do what everybody else does. Accept the fact that real life is risky and shut the fuck up, please. Again, I've said this before, every story, isn't it? Look at that, the top of the feed for news on the US and Canada is just India's first trans queen, show yourself loud and proud. Haven't India got more important things to worry about than the first trans queen? I've got no problem with Natasha Biswan winning India's first transgender beauty pageant. I just don't see why it's top of the fucking feed. Like, who gives a fuck other than a prospective king? Well, in fact, I think I'll call it there. It's relatively light this week, and I don't want to talk about coronavirus anymore because it's boring me. I hope everyone's handling their isolation as well as I am. I've got a good 3 cases of PG tips and about 400 Yorkshire tea bags, so I'm good. Frankly, they're going to lock me in until, well, how long will that last me? 3 months, give or take. Stay safe, chaps. Don't lick any windowsills unless you're a big fan of Jeremy Corbyn, at which point you are probably used to licking plenty of windows already. Cheers.